from Arvin originally, Bakersfield, with an Arvin connection.
That's right.
And he is a internationally touring blues musician. Has got a lot of great awards, and he came to Covenant years ago, probably 6 years ago, and talked to a friend of mine, Scott Gray, right, about doing a benefit for Covenant and coming out. And so I'll let him share all that stuff with you, but he's a good friend. He's gonna be doing a concert tomorrow night out at Salty's Barbecue, and we've got about 130 seats there, only about 20 left, so it's gonna be a ton of fun. But we wanted to come and just share. So traditionally, we've done this 4 years now.
Yes.
We missed 2 because of COVID, but otherwise this will be the 6th year. But we're super excited he's gonna come. Tomorrow night there'll be people that will learn about Covenant, learn about what we're doing and what you guys are doing. And so we're excited to have Jon here today, and he's gonna talk to you. He's very conversational, so if you have a question or anything you wanna add, just raise your hand, get his notes. But here we go, Jon English.
Hi there. Thank you for having me. What I like to do is just, I won't remember your names because I'm horrible at remembering names. I can remember thousands of lyrics, but I can't remember names too well. But I still want to meet you individually. So start over here. What is your name?
Cassidy.
Cassidy?
Yeah.
And you are? Destiny? I really not. Cassidy? Ooh, that's interesting. And you are? Vanessa. Oh yeah, you were. Oh yeah, I know Vanessa. And the young lady back here. Brenda. And you, young man?
Andres.
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 Oh, that's cool. And you are? Star. I think. Yeah, I met you last year. I remember. Yeah, because Star. That's a unique name. Oh, on the camera here. And you are? Yours were? I didn't catch that. Jonathan. Hey, that one I will remember. And yours is? Linda.
Kenny.
Kenny, nice to meet you, Kenny. And?
Sierra.
Sierra. Okay, Sierra Madre, Sierra Mountains. Okay,
Yep.
okay, I gotta think like that.
Yep.
And you are?
Shelby.
Shelby. Jesus. And this young lady here, little boy. Jessica. Nice to meet you. And Elizabeth. I think we met outside, that's right. Well, I do that because I was a foster kid. Just to give you a brief history of what I'm about and where I came from. So when I was born in 65, so I'll be 60 this year, which is crazy to me because I don't feel anywhere near 60. And the county sheriff took my brothers and I was the youngest of 4 boys, and I was 8 months old. And my biological mother, she liked to go to the bars and drink and all this, and she had some issues. Some neighbors called the sheriff on her. They came and picked me up and my brothers, and I went into the foster care system until I was around 5 years old. I was in kindergarten. I was going to Virginia Avenue Elementary over there on the east side, and I was through several homes. Back then they called it shelter care. There was no Jameson Center. I guess that's still around. Back then it was a shelter care, and it was now today, last time I checked, it's the juvenile hall. They're off of Mount Vernon. That facility was the shelter care when I was a kid. And so it was foster homes until I was 5, and my biological mother did what was required of her to get us back. She got us back. She had us for probably 6, 7, 8 months, and we were living in a motel on the corner of Sterling and Edison Highway. And so eventually one night she came in and just let us know. We were all rambunctious little boys. We were not very well behaved. And she just said, if I'm not here in the morning, I don't want none of you out running around the streets and causing a ruckus and all that. It's like, okay. So we went to sleep. We only had one mattress in our bedroom. All 4 of us boys shared that mattress. We got up the next morning. She'd taken everything that night and disappeared. And I didn't see her again until I was 19 years old. And so I went back. So we hung out at that motel for the most of the day and getting snacks out of the machine that we could steal out of there and break into it and get it. And we eventually wandered up about a mile north of there where my biological aunt lived, which was her older sister, because my biological mother was the baby of the family. And we hung out there for a while. She couldn't take care of us because she already had a lot of kids. And so she called the sheriff and they came and got us, and I was right back in the system. Eventually I was adopted when I was 10 years old. I wound up this is where the Orphan part comes in. I wound up, the family adopted me when we were still foster boys, my brother and I, Clarence. So they said 4 boys separated us, me and Clarence, Joe and Gary, and we went off. We were in Wheat Patch, California, and we arrived at the English's house in the summer of '73, and so we were there, and then we moved out to DeGiorgio, out in the boonies near Orphan, and that's how I became involved in growing up out there. My adopted mom was not a very nice person. She was very much, I was basically a hired servant. That's all I did. I didn't go outside and play. I had a couple of friends that I was close with that knew about what was going on, but when you're a foster kid and you've been bounced around so many times, and you know, caseworker shows up, grab your stuff, you know, you got it in your little trash bag, and off you go. After a while, you become hard-hearted and even in all that. And I'm sure if there's any of you that have went through the system as a child growing up, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, who cares about me? Who wants me? Doesn't matter no more. And you get an attitude. And that's what I did. I got a really bad attitude. I couldn't stand the system. That's what I always called it. I couldn't stand the fact that no use of making any friends, no use of being pleasant in class because I'm only here for a moment. So I just got this attitude. It was disruptive a lot. What changed in my life was my adopted mother divorced my adopted father, and she wasn't really a mother to me. To this day, I don't consider her a mother. But she had her issues growing up, and it was a cycle. It was sad. It was a cycle. Her stepfather was abusive in a lot of ways, and that just conditioned her to be abusive in a lot of ways. And so when they divorced, life got a little bit better. But what happened with me was I got into athletics. So I'm in this small community in Orphan, California. I started attending Orphan High in the year 1980, my freshman year. My brother Clarence, who was adopted with me, I looked up to. And he was a senior at Orphan when I was a freshman. And what happened was he got into cross country. And I'd go out and I got to know all the cross-country runners. Most of them were Hispanic, the Sanchez's, the Rodriguez's, all these guys. They were great guys. And a lot of them were Pachucos. And Jeff probably knows all this. You went to Orphan. And so they would hang out in like the little corner of the quad in the high school, the Pachucos, and then there's the band people over here, and over here's the jocks and athletics. Well, I wasn't with anybody. I just knew everybody. That's how I was. So what happened, I got in these athletics, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. I felt like, hey, these guys depend on me as a team member. I ran cross country, never did that until I got in high school. And then I got into wrestling because my brother, who never wrestled, his senior year, what would happen is a lot of the wrestlers would run cross country to get in shape and endurance for the wrestling season. So the fall sports is cross-country football, winter sports is basketball and wrestling, and you have the spring sports, which is baseball and track and field. So these wrestlers would run cross-country, and then they would wrestle. And my brother, I don't know if it was a joke he played on me or what, but he told me one day, he said, yeah, I'm gonna go out for wrestling. So, okay, well, I'm gonna go out. I never wrestled in my life. I show up in the gym, and there's a wrestling room, and Coach Ruben Ramirez was our coach, and he's legendary. And he gives a spiel. He's a Marine. So he gives a spiel about commitment and family and enduring and overcoming and perseverance and all this just great speech. And I'm sitting there and I notice my brother still hasn't showed up. He finishes. My brother never did come out, but Coach Ramirez had basically, I felt like he was looking right at me, giving me this speech. Okay, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to stick to this. And so I started wrestling. But the thing about the sports was it's the first time in my life that I felt like I was part of something. And not only part of something, but I felt like I could contribute in a positive way. And I actually became, I'm not going to go all into it, but I became one of the best cross-country runners in the valley when I went to Orphan. It was in me, and I just was committed to it. I became a very good wrestler. In my freshman year, we won JV championships, and I was on the team. I wrestled 101s. I know I'm looking big now, but I was a little tiny guy back then. But it was those things, those life changes that got a hold of me. A couple of things that really made a major difference was the coaches and the teachers. And when I got into high school, because I was such a disruptive class clown, didn't give a crap about anything person, they ended up putting me in these college prep classes my freshman year. And it's like, what am I doing in this class with all these smart kids, these preppies? That's what we called them back in the day, preppies. Like, I don't belong here. And so I told my counselor, I went and met her at the office. I said, hey, they made a mistake. They put me in college prep English and this and that. And she said, no, that's where you belong. Your test scores and everything. I don't think so. So I was kind of like, this is stupid. I don't want to be in these classes. So they set up a meeting with my dad and my 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Dake, who was my 8th grade teacher out of the Georgia school. And she came in, and my counselor, Mrs. Van Voorhees was her name. And they sit down and they explained to me, no, you belong in these classes. You're a very smart person. And you're a bright kid. And Mrs. Dake, so she knew how I was crazy in school. And I never thought teachers really cared. I had some bad teachers that really did. But she told me something that really to this day has stuck with me, is that she said, Johnny, back then I was Johnny. I don't go by Johnny anymore, but Randy can tell you that, no Johnny. And she said, Johnny, you're a very smart young man. You have such potential to really excel in life because you're creative. You do the things you do, and I know you're doing it because you're lashing out on what's going on in your world. She said, but if you can channel that energy that you have, that's just, you don't have no problem being the class clown. You have no problem pulling pranks. You have no problem organizing those thoughts to do those things, to be disruptive. If you can take that and turn it around and organize those same thoughts and that energy and commitment to being disruptive, to being in your classes and doing your courses, and she goes, you can really excel in life. You're a bright young man. I never heard that. Never once did I ever hear that. And it really got to me because now I'm in cross country, because we train before the school year starts, so we're already training. So I've already got to know my co-runners and everything. I'm already building these relationships, and they're all positive. And at the same time, I got good coaches that are instilling in me, self-discipline, which I didn't really have a lot of. And then my teacher from 8th grade says, yeah, you belong in these classes. And so what happened was, when I was 16, I had what they call an epiphany. I realized, you know what, I can control my future. I have a say. I didn't have a say as a kid. We just go bouncing around, and the caseworkers, I hated my caseworker. I despised her because I was thinking and I was looking at her from the perspective as a child, as a young person, not knowing why is my life all screwed up. And seeing the holidays roll around for Christmas, and you see the families show up at the school to get their kids because of the Christmas holiday. That didn't happen for me. There was none of that. You make those little cards, Merry Christmas, Mom, Merry Christmas, Dad. To me, it was just a constant reminder of what I lost as a kid. And I hated it. That's why I became bitter. No, I'm good. I get a little emotional. If you're a musician, you'll understand. That's just how we are. But when I got in high school and I was 16, I remember this is when I started excelling in sports. I really started excelling in cross country and everything. And one day I just thought, you know what, I can control my future. I don't have to depend on anybody telling me what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, pick me up and take me to another home, another stranger, try to make good friends at school just to lose them. It just, that constant reminder that you're not wanted. And that's what it is. Everybody has a different story, and this is mine. And I just decided, nah, I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna change how my direction's going. And I always had this self mantra. in my head, in spite of that, she left me in a motel at 5 years of age with nothing. I'm gonna make something. I'm gonna prove to her that I'm gonna be somebody. And because of the mentoring of coaches, because of teachers that really did take interest in me as a person, and that started changing my life. And I said all that to say this: we didn't have Covenant Community Services when I was a kid. We didn't even have CPS, Child Protective Services. That didn't exist. Whenever my brothers, who had it a lot worse than I did, when they went through hell on earth in some homes, they would tell the caseworker would talk to the foster parent would say, Gary's just lashing out because we ground him from the TV because he's misbehaving at school. They would make up those excuses. All right, okay, that works for me. But no, they were actually abusing him physically. And he would do crazy stuff. But they didn't have any of that when I was a child. Today they do, and it's a great thing. Randy mentioned to me earlier about a program you might have heard called CASA. Have any of you been acquainted with CASA Kern County? It's Court Appointed Special Advocate. And I'm involved with the CASA of Sedgwick County. I live in Wichita, Kansas. And I do a lot of stuff with them. And what that CASA does, it's just amazing. It's a court-appointed special advocate, and that is a volunteer. It's a person's volunteering to go with that foster child from the moment they're in the system until they leave. They're with them. It don't matter if they go to how many homes they go to. There's something constant in their life, in the anchor, emotional anchor, and that's that CASA person that goes with them. They build this relationship, and it's amazing. That didn't exist when I was a kid. We didn't have nobody to turn to. And the beauty of the CASA advocate is they're the ones that says, well, wait a minute, there's some shady stuff going on in this home. And they let the courts know, or they let whoever they need to let know that we need to check this out. Something's not right. And they build a bond with the child. That's a beautiful thing. The other part of it is then once you're out of the system, what happens to you? Where do you go? And as Randy alluded to earlier, when my music career started taking off and people started following me and all that stuff, and fan base was growing and friendships were becoming realities because of the music, I always wanted to. I told my wife Stella, I said, I want to do something to help what I consider my siblings, my brothers and sisters, which is you. Because we're all family. We've all family because we've been baptized in abandonment and abuse or whatever happened that brought you to where you are right now in life. We have similar journeys and stories. And so I would tell her, man, I wish there was something. I want to do something. And I know about the CASA program. So I know that the kids are being taken care of better now than ever before in the system. But what about the kids when they leave, the aged out ones? And the reason why I knew about this, because my two older brothers that were not adopted, Gary and Joe, were aged out. And because they were aged out back in the early 80s, one became a heroin addict because he couldn't handle the fact that, hey, well, look at here. This wonderful system that cares about me, puts me in these homes, takes care of me. Now they're abandoning me. Now they're kicking me out to the streets. And he lived in a freaking overpass over here on 58, on Highway 58. And the judge, they got him. And the judge says, what are you doing? What? He's like, don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself. And he became a heroin addict for several years and lived on Union Avenue with his wife. And she'd go out and do tricks during the day or during the night so they'd have money to buy more heroin. And he did that. And I'd go visit him. I started going to church, and I'd go visit my brother religiously. Every weekend I'd go see him. And there's people that wanted to get in fights with me because I didn't dress like everybody did. I'd come in and they're like, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm here to see my brother. Who's your brother? I'm like, well, Gary. Who's Gary? And I'm like, I ain't got time for this. I knew what hotel. He was staying at the Sunset Motel down in Union. I'd go down there and see him, and he'd be in the room. Most of the time, he was out of it. He was so wasted. And I just sat there and visit with him. I just sat there with him. And so knowing there's a lot of aged out kids that go through that, aged out foster youth, knowing that they probably have those similar situations where they just say, what's the use? And give up on life. But the beauty of what you have today with Covenant Community Services is somebody can step in and help you, help guide you, help direct you, and also give you a safety net, you know, where you're not stressing out. How am I going to get a job? If you want to go on to higher education, how do I pursue that? Housing, where do I stay? How am I going to get by? How am I going to eat? How am I, any of that? And that's what I loved. And so when I won't go into it because it's another long story, to me, it was a divine intervention, how it came out that I met Randy at Covenant Community Services. It was literally a divine intervention. I'm in chapter and then this happened and then that happened. I was like, wait a minute, Covenant, they do what? Oh, they help aged-out foster youth. And then I met Randy through the friend he mentioned, and we sat down. I told him what I wanted to do, and I was kind of worried because it's still to this day, this is something, some of you probably have the same situation, it's acceptance. And so to this day, even at 59 years old, I have a hard time feeling accepted, even with my music. And I have fans, and I have friends, and I have other musicians I met throughout the world, and we got to be really good. I still feel like I'm kind of out of place. And that's a conditioning, it's the wonder of being a foster kid. You just have that condition where you feel like you're always out of place. But I met with Randy and I told him that this is what I'd like to do if I can. I want to do something to bring some attention and do whatever I can to help in this cause. With what I've been given, the blessing of being able to write songs and people like it and tour and meet people and let them know this is who I am and this is what I'm about. They call me Orphan Jon, and you can Google it, and you'll see there's been a couple of write-ups about my life in articles. And when I first started performing, I didn't have a nickname. I was just Jon English and my band. The guys in the band had nicknames. Each one had some little nickname. They've been musicians since they were young. So one gentleman, elder gentleman, a friend of mine, one day said, "Hey, how come you ain't got a nickname?" I go, "Well, I don't know." He goes, "You gotta have a nickname. If you're gonna be a blues singer, all blues singers have nicknames. You got Howlin' Wolf, got Muddy Waters." He goes, "You gotta have one." So he said, "You know what? You're a foster kid." I said, "Yeah." He says, "How about Orphan Jon?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that'll work." So he started calling me Orphan Jon. Pretty soon everybody else started calling me Orphan Jon. When I was a kid, I didn't want nobody to know I was a foster kid. I didn't want any, and I hated when they found out because you always get treated weird, but they always found out. And then what happened was I was doing a show in Kansas City and at Knuckleheads. It's a big music venue. It's one of the biggest in the Midwest. And I was playing in this nice little intimate section. There's 4 stages throughout this venue. There's one called the Gospel Lounge. And in this Gospel Lounge, it's real intimate, it seats 85 people. And it's real close, the acoustics are amazing. It's my favorite room, I absolutely love it. And the green room, from the stage, you go up the side little stairway, it's really cool. And you go up there in the green room. So we do a set, we take a break, and I go to the green room. And while I'm up in the green room, my guitar player, Bruce, comes up there and he says, "Hey," he goes, "I gotta tell you something." He goes, "There's some people upset with you." I'm like, "What are they upset about?" He goes, "Well, get this, Jon. They think that you took on Orphan Jon just to be like pull on people's heartstrings. They think it's kind of messed up that you're called Orphan Jon." And my band, I named my band. The band name is The Abandoned. So I'm Orphan Jon and The Abandoned. And I was like, "Wow." He goes, "Jon, honestly, I think you need to let the audience know why they call you Orphan Jon." I said, "Well, what'd you tell the people?" He said, "I actually told him," I said, "Well, you know why they call him this? Because he is an orphan." And they were like, "Oh," because people don't know. So I never talked about it. That was the name they called me. I said, okay, it's catchy, Orphan Jon. I named my band The Abandoned. It fits, Orphan Jon The Abandoned. So I started doing, when I do my shows, I'd always let the audience know after a few songs, "Hey, just let you know, they call me Orphan Jon because I am an orphan. I was abandoned when I was a little boy, and that's it." I said, I went through hell on earth as a child, but life's been great as an adult. And I'm happy that I'm here to share my music with you and tell you my story. And so that's what I would do. And so I wanted to get with Randy, and I wanted to help out with Covenant Community Services because what they provide in helping you is amazing. And I'm sure you know, because you're probably not as stressed out of how you're going to handle housing and jobs or whatever. And I know Samantha does a lot. I know Jeff does. So and Kim, and it's a wonderful thing. And so we do this concert every year. We started. COVID kind of kicked us in the butt, so we couldn't get rolling like we wanted. But this is our 4th year, and I come into town. I come, and this year I'm happy because Stella gets to come with me, my beautiful wife. And we put on this benefit, and I headline the benefit every year, and we have a local band that everybody loves, and they open. And then our good friend Jeff Salters, who's another one that's has always helped out with this. He donates the hall, he does all this stuff, it's just amazing, he's a godsend. And we have it at the Salty's Barbecue Event Center. And we do it every year. And the good thing too is I get to come into town. I'm here for a couple of weeks. I get to see my kids and my grandbabies. And that's really a wonderful thing. Because my kids and my grandbabies have no clue whatsoever what it's like to go through what I went through. Because that was something I made sure in my life that my kids would never know what it's like to be neglected. And I raised them. I have 6 beautiful children. I have 7 grandbabies. My second oldest daughter, Brooke, who's Daddy's girl, she gave us our first grandchild, Liliana Rose, and she just had our last grandchild, Kaizen Sky, a little 8-month-old boy, and I love him to death. And that's what's been a blessing, and that's back to that in spite of. I'm going to do something with my life. So I want to encourage you this way. You're going to get depressed. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get irritated. You're going to get upset. You're going to get dismayed. You're going to have anxieties. But keep pressing forward. And always have that in your head in spite of what you went through as the system, whatever your story is. Use that as a positive motivation to go forward and make some of your life and give to, if you want to have a family, that your kids will have something you didn't have, and you have that commitment, that motivation. Just keep going. Life's not easy. It's not easy. I look back and I can see these little, I was not aware of it at the time, of course, but I would see these, I would think back, oh my gosh, that happened. That's interesting how that happened. How Ruben Ramirez, my brother, tricked me into going out for wrestling, and here I was, and it turned into one of the greatest things that ever happened in my life, because I had Coach Ramirez, a Marine, who instilled in me about this teamwork and all of this stuff, and moving forward. So I look back at those, and it's the same thing. We all have stories to tell. Use the negative, flip it around, and make it a positive to move forward. Always overcome. And it don't matter if everybody in the whole world think that you're not worth it. You're worth it. And I always say this every year. You're here because that tells me you want something better than what you had been given. Because you didn't get to ask. You didn't have a say. Nobody said, hey, what do you think about, we leave you and let you stay in the motel and figure it out on your own. It just happened. But now you have a say, and you're here because you made that decision. That's a wonderful thing. Just keep doing it. Keep going forward. Never give up. And always have that in spite of attitude, in spite of. And that's what I want to leave with you. I'm nothing special. I don't consider myself anything special. When I met my wife, she hadn't seen me. We met online. It's a story. My oldest sister did this AOL.love thing, and I didn't care about it. And my wife, when we were chatting, she asked me what I looked like, because I didn't have a picture. I didn't create the profile. My sister did, my older sister. And I just told her, I said, well, I'm an average guy, average looking. I said, I'm not butt-ass ugly, but I'm not dropped down gorgeous. I said, I'm okay with who I am. And that's actually how my attitude's been in life. I'm okay with what I am. I try my dead level best. Never become jealous. never have an ego, never look at others and become bitter because of their successes. That stuff will destroy you. And it was doing that to me as a kid, because I see those kids. My classmates get to go home with their parents on Christmas leave. I didn't, and I hated them. I become this, sometimes a bully when I shouldn't have been. But when I got older, you get a little bit wiser the older you get. I realized, it don't matter. And music opened up a lot of things for me. So where I just love doing what I'm doing. I have a beautiful family, I have beautiful grandbabies, I have beautiful friends, I have beautiful family here. And that's all I care about. I'm a content person because of that. I didn't set out in music, and that's another story in itself. I didn't set out to be where I'm at today. I didn't. Friends are like, hey, you gotta do this. Like, what the heck, let's do it. And it just happened. Next thing I knew, I was like, well, I like to write. I was horrible at English in high school. And I write today, and people are like, my God, I love the way you write. I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Fulton at Orphan Jon. So I write these songs, and almost all of my songs I've written are about overcoming, and I try to write inspiring stuff. And I write about my wife, a lot of them about my wife. I tell it when I'm at a show, I'll tell the audience, okay, all the songs you hear tonight that are about love, all that beauty, that's about Stella. And all the songs you hear about messing around and trouble, that's about ex-girlfriends. So make sure everybody knows it's not about my Stella. And I just went to the studio, and we're fixing to master my newest album. And I wrote a song. So what I do is I put an acoustic song on all my albums. So that acoustic song I'll put on that album, and then when I do the next album, that acoustic song, I'll have it electric with the whole band. So it's kind of my way of tying, it's just my crazy way of doing things. I tie this album to that album, then that album to that album. That's what I do. This year, a good friend of mine, Nick Schnevlin, who's the producer, and him and I wrote a couple of songs for the album. We're sitting in his music room in Kansas City back in November last year. And he says, so I said, hey, I'm down, Nick, I want to write it. I said, it's always what I do with my producer, I write a song with them. He says, yeah, man, I'd love to. What do you have in mind? I said, well, I got all these lyrics I have so many lyrics, like 50, 60 of them songs. And I said, he goes, well, you don't mind looking at it? Yeah, he looks at it and he says, okay, what's these little ones? He goes, you just only got one, looks like one verse. I said, oh yeah, it's a thought I had about writing about my grandbabies. He goes, let's try that one. I go, okay. And the creative juices get flowing. It's something else to behold when it happens. So he goes, what do you have in mind to feel? And I said, well, you know who Jack Johnson is? He goes, yeah. I said, I kind of always thought about Jack Johnson kind of feel. If you don't know who Jack Johnson is, look him up. He's really cool. He does a lot of songs that are kind of, I don't know why, they make me think of, what's the little monkey, George? Remember the little yellow book? Curious George, yes. The Curious George. It always makes me think of that. I think he actually wrote a song about Curious George. So I told Nick, and he goes, okay, he starts playing this lick. I'm like, all right. And I take out my phone, this is what you do, and I hit record, because you can capture lightning in a bottle at times. And I start singing this. And so I'll play it for you. I don't mind, if that's okay. So I'll give you an insight what we do. Let me get my eyeballs out, because I am almost 60. So, so I did this. So I sat down and he starts playing, and what I'll do is I'll just start singing. I sang the first line that I already had. Nope, that's not it. Well, I just played. Maybe I should already have this figured out. So anyways, what do you call it? I might call it something different. So what I do is I record it. This is great. That's not it. Well, Well, anyways, I'll do this. So we record this a little bit, and it's for so we can save it, and then we go in the studio. I tell them what the plan is. What I always did, we didn't practice. We would never practice the song. So what we do is we go in the studio, and with a hollow body guitar, I always picture you on the front porch, and you're just singing and playing. We'll mic you, we'll mic me in the sound booth and the vocal booth, and we'll just record. And that's what we did when the band came in to cut the track, the other tracks. And so then when I came back to start mixing, which was last month, we got together and Nick had listened to what we had recorded. He goes, okay, I got it down to that one. Let's do it again. I said, yep, that's what we do. So we go back in there, get set up, we do it again. And so we came up, this is what we call a rough, because it's not mastered and we're still mixing it, but it'll give you an idea. So this is what Nick came up with, and I wrote about my grandkids. Oh, wait a minute. That's what Nick came up with, and I was just telling Randy this. Oh, wait a minute. Here it is. This is what we recorded that morning, that day. So this is just the rough in his studio. And I'm just making it up. Choke it up right there a little. So that's how musicians write songs. And so I recorded that, and that became this. I told Nick, I said, do a little noodling at the beginning to set it up. There you go, Samantha. She had asked me if I was going to perform. I said, well, I don't play any instruments. I only sing. That's my instrument. And I write. And so I said I had to get a guitar player. It'd be kind of hard to do that. And then Stella, she chimes in, well, you know, you have all the tracks. Because what I was telling Randy. So when I'm listening to the mixes, because the engineer in the studio's in Kansas City, and I live 4.5 hours south, or no, 2.5 hours south in Wichita, he'll send me the tracks and I'll listen to them, and I have him send me the tracks with the vocals, and I said, and then have him send me the tracks with just the instrumental, which is what I was playing earlier, so I can listen and see, you know, what I want fixed or whatever done. And so the wife goes, well, you got those tracks, you know, with just the music, you can play it, sing it. So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So that's for Samantha. See, I put the music out there. So this song, what's special about this song for me is this. I write about Stella all the time. She's my #1 fan. She puts up a lot of my crazy stuff because I still have issues. She's a beautiful lady, and she's my inspiration immensely inspired by her. She's a very strong woman. She worked for the state of California, retired. We moved to Wichita, Kansas. She gets bored. She goes to work for the state of Kansas. That's why she's not here today. She's working mobile at her parents' law office here in Bakersfield, doing what she's got to do for the state of Kansas, where she'd be here. So I was like, well, I want to write a song about my grandbabies, because that's 2 generations removed from what I went through. And I had that line, and I told Nick, and he came up with that riff, that guitar riff, and we made the recording, and we went in, and I finished the lyrics, and we did this song. I only had 2 verses, those first 2. So the first verse about, see the little girl, hair all blonde and curls, playing for baby doll, mama is her world. That's about Liliana Rose, my first grandbaby, and Addison Day, my second granddaughter, and Ridley Lake, my third. So I wrote that about them. The second verse, where it says, see the little boy making some noise, playing for this Tonka truck and all that. I put that in there because my first grandson just automatically took a liking to heavy equipment, backhoes and excavators and dozers, a little boy, which is kind of interesting because his father is in the Navy, and so I didn't really know how to be around him because he was in the service. Him and his wife were different states up in Washington. But I was a heavy equipment operator. It's what I did for a living for years, run heavy equipment. So it's kind of neat how that played out. The Tonka truck issue was, I put that in there because when I was a kid in the foster system, they never let us take anything. We never got to keep any toys. Even in shelter care, when the Girl Scouts would come in every Christmas and bring gifts and make us little things, we had to leave it to shelter care for the other kids. There was a Tonka truck I had found that was beat up and old. And back then, those Tonka trucks were made out of metal. They weren't plastic like today, they were metal. The cab was missing. It was still had the bed and everything, and that was my toy. And I remember that was a toy they actually let me take everywhere I went for quite some time. And I think the reason was because it was so beat up. They're like, ain't nobody else gonna want that. So that was that Tonka truck. So I put that in there because knowing what my grandson loves, that equipment, and that Tonka truck is that connection with him and me. So I brought it home from the studio, and I played it for a wife, because she's the president of the record label that I have my own record label now. She's the president. And I had her listen to it. She's listened to it. It's only those 2 verses and the chorus. And she says to me, she goes, you know, what would really be neat is if you wrote a verse about Zeke and Roman. Zeke and Roman is my wife's daughter's kids. So we're a blended family. I had 3 children. She had 3 children from previous marriages when we met. I have a rule to this day. I never introduce and never will introduce my kids, any of them as stepchildren. I raised her 3 girls with my 2 girls and my son, all 6 of them. And I love them as if they were mine, from my flesh and blood. And to me, to introduce them as a stepchild, I always felt like this, like, yeah, here's my kids, yeah. Oh, and here's my kind of kids, step kids. They're like, they're down here on the totem. I didn't like that. It's like, no, because of what I went through as a kid. No, this is my children. So when Stella said that to me, I have a great relationship with those 3 girls. But here's the key that's majorly important, is their dad is still in their lives. And their dad is one of my best friends. And this is after I started dating his ex-wife, and Stella and I got married. We became really good friends. He's from Orphan too, but he knew of me. He was a couple years below me, but I knew of him. But what happened is, because he has such a big heart, and that's the thing about Orphan people, they have big hearts. And we were older, and we're not going to get into no stupid attitudes with one another, because the kids are what's important. But him and I became such good friends that he actually went on tours with me as a roadie. He would drive the van. He would help load in and load out to this very day. And he's going to be at the benefit Saturday tomorrow. I love the guy to death, and out of respect to him, there's some things that I won't do, because he is their father and he's involved in their life, and I don't want to be a wedge. That's a beautiful thing, because I know what it's like not to have a dad. So it's the same thing with the grandsons. I love them. I mean, I can't wait. I get to see them this Sunday. I cannot wait to see them. But I kind of shy away from, getting in there too much. So when Stella said, it'd be nice if you wrote something about Zeke and Roman, I was like, you're right. So when we went back into the studio, we were mixing, and that's the time we actually recorded this one. I'd written See the Little Ones. So the first 2 verses, See the Little One, singular. The last verse is See the Little Ones, plural, because it's Roman and Zeke. Hear their dinos roar. They love dinosaurs. And I was like, oh, so that came to me. That would work. Dinos roar. Couldn't love them more. And so that's what that verse is about. So this song really, even when I listen to it, it moves me, because I picture my grandbabies. Now, I also wanted to honor my kids. So if you listen to the song, you're going to thank those little kids that's in the verses. And then when I say that line about my kids make me so proud, that's them. That's those kids in the verses. But that's not for me personally. Those kids are my grandbabies. And it's my kids that gave me those grandbabies that make me so proud. And that's something personal for me. Nick just had a little boy that was born 2 weeks ago, little Chris. And when we were in the studio doing this, he has 2 girls, and he finally got his little boy. He was telling me, because we constantly communicate when we're dealing with mixing, hey, what do you think? He'd give me ideas, what he thinks we need to tweak and whatever. He tells me, he says, Jon, I can't get that Little Ones out of my head. He said, I really love that song. And then after Chris was born, the last time I talked to him, he said, my God, he said, that song's just totally new meaning. I said, yeah. I said, it's the beauty of our kids and having that creation and forming your own family that I never had growing up. And so anyways, he told me, so we're going to do some acoustic shows at Knuckleheads. I said, okay, make it happen, I'll do it. But that's the beauty of making a decision when I was 16, not to let that crap when I was a kid affect me in a negative way. Is that today I get to stand here before you. Like I said, I'm nothing beautiful, nothing great. But I just want to say, we all have a story. And you guys being here is just amazing. And making the commitment and working with the staff here and letting them help you and guide you and all of that, because you need it. We all need it. But thank you for having me. And just keep moving forward. And it's good to see you again, Star. I remember last year when I was here, I came by. And so just know, people care about you. They do. And let that always be something as a positive thing, too. That you do know there are people in the world that care about you. So thank you for having me, and you're all my heroes as far as I'm concerned. You're amazing. And it means a lot to me to see you and knowing that you're doing what you're doing to make your life better, that you have a say now. So keep doing that, keep going forward. Create some beauty for the world, for yourself. Thank you for having me. And I would, if any of you want to talk to me, I'd be happy to talk to you, and I'd love to hear, where you came from and all that. I'm always curious because I think it's amazing. Like I said, we all have stories, and I just told some of mine, but I do want to know you. I do want to get to know you. So if anybody want to talk to me, I don't bite, and I did take a shower. I put on some cologne and deodorant, so I should be pleasant to be around, I think. So thank you again.